You ever sit in a courtroom, the mother of your child smirking across from you, mocking you in front of strangers like your love, your pain, your whole ing life was just a bad joke? Yeah, I was there. I was the guy she abandoned right after giving birth to her daughter. Name's Tyler. 34, HVAC tech, worked double shifts for 2 years to make sure she never had to lift a finger. Her name? Lindsay. Blonde hair, fake everything else. Used to look at me like I was her whole world. Now? She sat there, arms crossed in her designer coat, like the only thing I was good for was a direct deposit. And beside her, holding her Gucci bag, was her new boyfriend, some prick named Chase. Pediatrician. Drives a Tesla. Wears bracelets. The kind of guy who calls your daughter princess, even though he didn't spend a single damn night in that NICU watching her fight to breathe. Let's rewind a few months. Lindsay and I were supposed to be a team. That's what I told myself as I painted the nursery yellow and gray. We argued more than usual, sure. She said I didn't listen, didn't care about how swollen her ankles were. But I figured that was just hormones. She'd scream. I'd take a walk, we'd cool off, come back and eat takeout on the couch. Then she gave birth. I cried holding our baby girl, Amelia. That night, Lindsay didn't even want me in the hospital room. Said I smelled like the garage. I slept in the damn waiting room chair, too scared to go home, too heartbroken to ask why. 3 days later, I came home from picking up baby formula, and they were gone. No note. No text. Crib empty. Her clothes? Gone. Jewelry box, baby blanket, even the diapers, like she planned it for months. Only thing she left was the whiteboard calendar I stuck to the fridge, with that week's words still written across it in dry erase. Try harder. I tried. I filed police reports, asked around, begged her parents to talk to her. They just shrugged. She needs space, her mother said. It's not you, Tyler. She's just figuring things out. Then came the subpoena. She wanted child support. She wanted me to pay her to keep my daughter from me. That's how I ended up in that courtroom. She laughed during the opening statements, snorted when the judge asked about her employment. I don't have a job, she said, flipping her extensions, so I won't stop leeching off them. The whole courtroom chuckled. Even the stenographer looked up. I swear the judge raised an eyebrow. But I wasn't laughing. I was boiling. Not just for me, but for my daughter. For the nights I spent singing to her through a damn baby monitor. For the hours Lindsay ignored her, scrolling Instagram and posting selfies while Amelia cried. And that's when it hit me. I still had what she didn't know I had. Something that would rip that fake-ass smirk off her face. So just as the judge cleared his throat, ready to deliver his verdict, I stood up and reached into my bag. Actually, Your Honor, I said, calm but loud enough for the whole room to hear. I have something to add. Lindsay's face shifted from smug to pale in under a second. She knew. Somewhere deep down, she knew I kept receipts. But she had no idea just how many. What I pulled out wasn't just a folder. It was war. The bailiff moved toward me, unsure if I was pulling out a threat or a miracle. I raised my hands, calm as could be, and placed the folder on the table in front of the judge. I'd like to submit this as evidence, I said, locking eyes with Lindsay. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Chase leaned over to whisper something to her, but she smacked his arm away. The judge nodded. Proceed. Inside the folder was every lie she ever told me, backed with dates, screenshots, and witness statements. I had everything. The text messages she sent to her friends talking about how dumb Tyler will keep paying for everything while I figure out what I want. Screenshots of her and Chase dating before she gave birth. GPS data from her phone showing she never went to her cousin's house like she claimed during those weekends she needed a break. Even photos from a private investigator I hired when I saw her Instagram location tagged at a beach resort while I was at home microwaving frozen dinners and rocking Amelia to sleep. The courtroom went dead quiet. Lindsay tried to speak, stammering something about privacy, but the judge shut her down. You submitted yourself to this court, Mrs. Holbrook. If there's relevant evidence, we're going to hear it. The judge flipped through the documents. She read. She paused. She raised her head. This paints a very different picture, she said slowly. I watched Lindsay melt. Her arms crossed tighter, her lips pursed. Chase grabbed his keys and stood up like he was ready to bolt. Where are you going? She hissed, clutching his sleeve. He shook her off. You told me you left because he was abusive. I didn't flinch. I expected it. She told everyone I hit her. That was her story. That's what her mother cried about in church. What her friends whispered behind my back. And now the courtroom saw the truth. No bruises. No police reports. Just screenshots of her coaching her friend to tell people that Tyler has anger problems. The judge looked at me. Would you like to amend your petition? Yes, Your Honor, I said without blinking. I'd like to file for sole custody of my daughter. Lindsay laughed. He can't take care of her. He doesn't even know how to change a diaper. I didn't even respond. I let the photos do the talking, Amelia sleeping peacefully on my chest, Amelia giggling in her car seat while I made faces, Amelia taking her first steps across our living room floor while I held out my arms. The judge flipped to the last page. A statement from our pediatrician confirming I'd attended every checkup, that Amelia was healthy, developing ahead of schedule, and demonstrated a clear emotional bond with her father. I will consider this new evidence, the judge said. We'll reconvene in 1 week. Until then, temporary full custody is granted to Mr. Holbrook. Court adjourned. Bang. The gavel hit. That sound cracked through Lindsay's ego like thunder through stained glass. She stood up, nostrils flaring. You think this is over? She hissed as I walked past. I didn't even look at her. It already is. Outside the courthouse, I stood on the steps, folder still in hand, Amelia's favorite pacifier in my pocket. My phone buzzed, my sister, asking how it went. I didn't reply. I just stood there, not smiling, not crying, just breathing. The kind of breath you take when the storm's passed, but the sky's still gray. The kind of breath where you finally feel the weight leave your chest, but you're scared to believe it's real. I lost her a long time ago, but I didn't lose my daughter. And that was all that mattered now. A week passed slower than I thought possible. I barely slept, afraid I'd wake up and find out it had all been a dream, that the judge hadn't seen through her lies, that I was still the bad guy in everyone's story but mine. But each morning, I opened my eyes to the soft coos of my daughter in the crib beside my bed, and I knew I wasn't dreaming. She was still here, still mine, and Lindsay was losing control. That didn't stop her from trying. 3 days after court, she showed up outside my house. Not knocking, not calling, just sitting in Chase's car with her sunglasses on, arms folded like she had some moral upper hand. She waited an hour before texting me, I miss my baby. Let me hold her. I didn't reply. The next day, I got a message from her mom. Please, Tyler, let's not turn this into a war. Lindsay is hurting. Hurting? Where was this concern when she dragged me through court and told a room full of strangers that I was unstable? Where was this kindness when she took Amelia and ran, leaving me wondering if my daughter was even alive? But I didn't say any of that. I just replied, court date is Monday. We'll let the judge decide. That Monday came like a hammer. Court was packed this time. I think people heard what happened last week. Even the security guard gave me a nod when I walked in with Amelia asleep on my shoulder. Lindsay sat on the opposite bench, lips tight, no makeup this time. Chase wasn't there. Guess he finally figured out what she was. The judge didn't waste time. She reviewed the evidence again, allowed Lindsay to speak. And Lindsay, God, she tried to spin it. Said she was going through postpartum. Said she panicked. Said she only left because I made her feel invisible. The judge looked over her glasses. According to your own texts, you were already planning to leave months before the birth. Lindsay's voice cracked. I was scared. I didn't know what else to do. Did fear also make you demand full custody and child support while hiding the child from her father? Silence. The courtroom held its breath. Then I stood. I don't want to take her mother away, I said. But I want what's best for Amelia. And that's stability. That's love. That's not manipulation, not drama, and not abandonment. Lindsay scoffed. You think you're perfect? No, I said, looking her in the eyes for the first time in weeks. But I'm present. The judge ruled for full custody to me, with supervised visitation for Lindsay once a week. She didn't even cry. She just stood there, nodded slowly, and walked out like she still had a plan. That's the thing about people like her. They never believe it's over until the door is slammed so hard it shakes the walls. I stood in the parking lot after the hearing, the afternoon sun cutting across the asphalt. My phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. I answered without thinking. Congratulations, a voice said. Who is this? Someone who knows what she's capable of. Check your email. The line went dead. I opened my phone. New email. No subject. Attachments, videos. And what I saw, it changed everything again. The first video loaded slowly, like the universe was giving me one last chance to turn back. I didn't. I sat there in my truck, parked under a half-dead tree outside the courthouse, and hit play. The quality wasn't great, probably filmed from a phone, low light, shaky, but the voice was unmistakable. Lindsay. in a tight red dress, drink in hand, laughing with two other women in what looked like a VIP booth at some lounge. Not just laughing, mocking. If Tyler knew how easy it was to get him to pay for everything while I faked being depressed, he'd lose what little brain cells he has left, she said, slurring just enough to make it sound like truth serum. One of the women cackled, and another leaned in, whispering, "You still letting him think the baby's his?" Lindsay sipped her drink. Smiled. "I mean, technically it could be his. But do I look like someone who makes good decisions?" Laughter again. Louder. I paused the video. My hands started to shake, not with rage, not yet. Not even heartbreak. Just disbelief. I had already been kicked, already been humiliated. But this wasn't just betrayal. This was annihilation. It wasn't just that she'd left. It was that she never respected me to begin with. The nights I brought her dinner after double shifts. The back rubs. The tears I wiped from her cheeks when she said she didn't feel pretty anymore. It was all AF ******ing show. And I was the audience, clapping like a fool. I played the second video. Different setting. Looked like some fancy Airbnb. Lindsay and Chase, tangled up on a couch, half-dressed. The camera pointed just low enough to capture everything without needing to be explicit. Their voices echoed, laughing, moaning, whispering. Then Chase spoke. "She's gonna find out eventually." "She's too stupid to find anything," Lindsay replied, voice thick and confident. "He still thinks I went to my aunt's last week." "You think he'll try to take the baby?" She snorted. "Let him. I'll just say he's abusive. Courts eat that up." I stopped the video. Couldn't watch more. For a few seconds, I just sat still, letting the air condition my rage. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat. Because this wasn't the kind of pain that explodes. This was the kind that sinks. Heavy. Slow. Final. I emailed the clips to my lawyer. His reply came 10 minutes later. "This changes everything." And it did. By the next morning, we had filed an emergency motion. The videos were submitted, along with statements from people who'd been at the lounge that night. Two of Lindsay's so-called friends flipped the second they were contacted, probably afraid of getting dragged down with her. One even gave us screenshots of Lindsay planning to pin the baby on me for financial security. Turns out she'd been running her mouth for months. The paternity test was rushed, expedited through court channels thanks to the videos and the clear evidence of premeditated fraud. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid she wasn't mine. Because I was terrified she was, and I'd have to spend the rest of my life sharing her with that monster. The results came in 3 days later. Amelia wasn't mine. Not biologically. But when I tell you that news didn't change a goddamn thing, I mean it. My knees went weak. My stomach flipped. But the moment I looked over at her little face, sleeping in her onesie with the giraffes on it, all of it melted. Blood doesn't raise a child. Love does. And I loved that little girl with every shattered piece of my soul. But Lindsay? She had just made the final, irreversible mistake. She tried to turn me into a puppet. But now the strings were in my hands. The courtroom was different this time. Quieter. Colder. Even the judge seemed sharper, less patient, like she'd already made up her mind the second the videos hit her inbox. Lindsay walked in dressed like a nun on trial, long sleeves, no makeup, fake humility painted across her face like it was enough to wipe away the filth. But the whispers had already started. She could feel them. I could see it. Eyes darting. Phones buzzing. Everyone had seen what she really was now. I sat there, expression blank, hands folded. Amelia wasn't in the room. She was with my sister, safe, napping like the little light she was in a world full of darkness. My lawyer leaned over. "She's finished," he whispered. "We just have to let her hang herself." And God, did she. They gave her the floor first. Her attorney fumbled through some crap about privacy violations, said the videos were taken illegally, that they didn't represent who she is as a mother. Lindsay wiped at imaginary tears. I was vulnerable. I said things I didn't mean. I never wanted to hurt anyone, especially not Tyler. He's been a good man, and I was in a dark place after giving birth. I tilted my head. She continued, voice soft, quivering like a soap opera actress with an Emmy on the line. I was scared. I didn't know how to ask for help, so I ran. But I never wanted to take Amelia away from him. "You called him stupid and planned to lie about abuse," the judge cut in. Lindsay blinked. I was venting. Women talk. We say things we don't mean. "You also said the child may not be his." She hesitated. I didn't know for sure. I was confused. "And now that the test confirms she isn't biologically his, do you believe he should still be responsible?" Lindsay paused. And there it was, the smirk. Faint. Flickering. But there. Well, she said slowly. He raised her. I think that means something. He's attached. The judge's eyes narrowed. You mean to tell me, after everything, lying, manipulating the court, falsifying abuse, you now believe Mr. Holbrook should continue paying support for a child you misled him into believing was his? It's in Amelia's best interest, Lindsay said, sweet as poison. He loves her. My lawyer stood. With all due respect, Your Honor, my client is filing charges for fraud, emotional damages, and parental alienation. We're also requesting that Lindsay Holbrook lose all custodial rights immediately and indefinitely. The judge didn't blink. She nodded. Motion accepted. And that was it. The gavel didn't even need to fall. Lindsay exploded. You can't do this. That's my daughter. You think you can just take her from me? You're not even her real father, you pathetic loser. Court security moved fast, grabbing her by the arms as she thrashed. Her voice bounced off the walls. You'll regret this, Tyler. She's not yours. You're nothing. I stood slowly, collected my folder, walked past her as they dragged her down the aisle. She spit at my feet. Missed. I didn't say a word. Not to her. Not to anyone. Because I already won. Not just custody, but peace. Amelia was mine, not by blood, but by every bottle I warmed. Every night I stayed up singing off-key lullabies. Every moment I held her while Lindsay was out pretending she had a life that didn't include either of us. That night, I took Amelia home, gave her a bath. She kicked her legs and laughed like the world had never hurt her. Like she didn't know what courtrooms were. Like betrayal hadn't wrapped itself around her name. I tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and just sat beside her crib for a long while. She stirred once, opened her little eyes, and looked at me. Dada, she whispered. And I broke. Because I had lost everything. And somehow, I'd still won. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. After Amelia drifted off, I just sat there in the dark, the soft hum of her white noise machine filling the silence. My hands trembled, not from fear, not from exhaustion, but from everything crashing down at once. I'd made it. The nightmare was over. But when you crawl through hell, you don't walk out clean. Around 2 a.m., my phone lit up again. Unknown number. At first, I ignored it. Probably Lindsay, or one of her flying monkeys trying to guilt me into forgiving her for the sake of the child. But it rang again. And again. On the fourth try, I picked up, whispering into the phone so I wouldn't wake Amelia. Yeah, a woman's voice. Calm. Direct. Tyler, my name is Lauren. I'm Chase's ex-wife. That name hit like a punch. I didn't know he was married. Neither did I until I found out about your wife. I got up, walked into the hallway, shutting Amelia's door behind me. My pulse was already speeding up. He was cheating on you too? I asked. With Lindsay. For months. She used to bring Amelia to their hotel room. Chase said it was like playing house. I clenched my jaw. Why are you calling me? Because I think you deserve to know the full story. And because Chase? He's unraveling. He just lost his job. That made me pause. Wait, what? Lauren didn't hesitate. He was caught prescribing meds illegally. Covering for Lindsay. Anti-anxiety meds, sleeping pills. Said she needed help staying calm for court. I sat down on the stairs, heart pounding. Are you telling me you drugged my daughter's mother? She drugged herself, Tyler. She's been popping pills for over a year, and he covered it up. There's an investigation now. I figured it was only a matter of time before it touched your life again. My stomach twisted. There had been nights Amelia came back from visits looking pale, out of it. I thought it was just stress. Teething. Or maybe I was imagining things, projecting my fear. But now I couldn't ignore it. What else do you know? I asked. There was a pause. She was planning to leave the country. With the baby. She told Chase they'd start over in Bali. He backed out when he realized she forged his name on a passport application. My hands went cold. I didn't even realize I was shaking until I dropped the phone. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was criminal. Lauren texted me the paperwork, copies of emails, screen-recorded voicemails, even a flight itinerary. I forwarded everything to my lawyer, my sister, and then to a detective who had helped me once before during the initial disappearance. Within 24 hours, Lindsay was under investigation for attempted international abduction and medical fraud. They arrested her that Thursday. She screamed when they cuffed her in her apartment, waking the whole building. She shouted my name, shrieking about how I had ruined her life. But I didn't ruin anything. I just refused to let her keep destroying mine. The court scheduled a final hearing to determine her parental rights. It lasted 15 minutes. She didn't even show up. No one knew where she went. Chase had cut her off. Her parents had gone silent. Even her friends had stopped posting photos with her. The world was finally seeing the version of her I had seen all along. The judge made it permanent. I was Amelia's sole legal guardian. No visitation. No appeals. No more Lindsay. I walked out of that courtroom lighter than I'd felt in years. And yet, there was still grief. Not for her, but for what I thought we had. For the man I used to be, the one who believed in forever, who thought love was enough to fix someone so deeply broken. That night, I sat on the back porch while Amelia slept. Stars above. Whiskey in hand. I closed my eyes and just breathed. This wasn't the life I planned. But it was mine now. And for once, it was enough. 2 weeks passed. No calls. No knocks. No court notices. Lindsay had vanished like she never existed. But I knew better. People like her don't disappear, they wait. They slither back when the heat dies down, wearing new masks, carrying fresh lies. I didn't let my guard down. Not even for a second. I changed all our locks. Installed cameras. My sister moved in to help with Amelia, just in case Lindsay, or someone she sent, tried to show up again. I didn't care how paranoid it looked. When you've lived with a viper, you learn to sleep with your boots on. But Amelia? She blossomed. She started talking more. Laughing louder. Her little eyes sparkled again. No more restless nights. No more sudden sobbing fits after visitation drop-offs. She clung to me like I was her whole universe, and in a way, I was. But the truth? She saved me too. Her tiny hand grabbing my thumb in the middle of the night, like she knew I needed to be reminded of why I was still standing. Then came the letter. No return address. Just a white envelope, slipped through the mailbox like a whisper. I opened it slowly, already expecting venom. I was right. Inside was a short note. You think you won, Tyler? I gave you that kid as a way out. She was never yours. You don't know the half of what I was dealing with. Maybe next time, pick a real woman. And maybe teach her sister to stay out of my business. No signature. Just a smear of red lipstick at the bottom. I didn't report it. There was nothing to gain. Instead, I burned it. Right there in the sink, watching the flame eat the last trace of her cruelty. I stared at that lipstick mark until it curled and blackened, disappearing into ash. That night, I made a promise. To never speak her name in front of Amelia again. Not in anger. Not in explanation. Not in defense. She didn't deserve a chapter in my daughter's story. A month later, Amelia and I stood outside the courthouse again, but not for a hearing. It was adoption day. My lawyer had helped me file the papers. I wanted my name on that birth certificate, not because it changed how I felt about her, but because I needed the world to know what I already did. She was my daughter. I carried her into the judge's chamber in a little blue dress, her curls bouncing, her tiny hand holding mine like it had always belonged there. The judge smiled. You're making it official, huh? I nodded. It's been official in my heart since day one. The papers were signed. And just like that, Amelia Hallbrook became Amelia Rivers. My last name. My legacy. My everything. Afterward, we went for ice cream. She smeared chocolate across her face, giggling like nothing bad had ever touched her world. And in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. The rage, the betrayal, the humiliation, it had all burned off, like fog in morning light. What remained was sharper, stronger. I didn't just survive Lindsay. I outgrew her. She wanted me broken. But all she did was build me into a better man. Now I live for the quiet things. The way Amelia says daddy with her whole chest. The sound of cartoons in the morning. The tiny shoes by the door. The crayon drawings on the fridge. The peace that comes when you know the worst is behind you. There's still pain. Don't get me wrong. But now, it's just a scar. Not a wound. And I wear it like armor. Summer came. Amelia turned 3 in July, and we threw a little backyard party. Nothing crazy, just close friends, my sister, her kids, a bounce house, and a bunch of those balloons that never stay tied down. The kind of day that feels so normal, you forget what came before it. She ran around with icing on her nose, chasing bubbles like they were magic, her laugh so pure it made grown men pause mid-conversation. And for the first time in what felt like years, I smiled without effort. I watched her with this mix of pride and protectiveness, thinking, she'll never know what was taken from her. I'll shield her from it, even if I bleed doing it. Then later that night, after the guests had gone and Amelia was asleep in my bed, holding the stuffed bear my sister gave her, I sat on the porch alone. The string lights were still glowing, soft and warm, and the air smelled like cake and barbecue. I was halfway through a beer when my phone buzzed. A private message. From a burner account on Facebook. The profile had no photo, no name. Just the words. "She's back in town. Thought you should know." I stared at the screen. Of course she was. I'd been waiting for the other shoe to drop. That woman wouldn't just vanish into thin air. Lindsay had nowhere else to go. She'd burned through every bridge, every man, every lie. And when people like her are finally out of options, they crawl back, not because they care, but because they need something. This time, she wouldn't find it here. I didn't respond, didn't react. Instead, I walked into the house, locked every door, then stood over my daughter for a full minute, just watching her breathe. In the days that followed, I stayed alert. Nothing happened. Until Wednesday. It was 7:15 a.m. I was loading Amelia into her car seat for daycare when I saw it, parked down the street, 3 houses away. A rusted gray sedan. Engine off. Windows up. Someone inside. I couldn't make out the face, but my gut told me everything I needed to know. I didn't panic. I waved goodbye to Amelia like it was just another morning, then took a different route. I dropped her off, called my lawyer, and by noon I had a restraining order in process. Then, because I learned how this game worked, I sent a message through my own private channel. It was short. "I know you're watching. Come near her, and I will bury you in court so deep you'll need a shovel to see daylight." She didn't reply, but the car didn't come back. A week passed, then 2, then a month. I don't know if she left again, or if she realized she couldn't touch us anymore. Maybe she found some new victim, or maybe she's just waiting, trying to figure out a new mask to wear. But it doesn't matter, because this time, I'm not that broken man crawling through her lies. I'm a father, a protector, and now I have everything to lose and the strength to never let it happen again. You want to know the truth? Sometimes I still hear her voice, not in the haunted way, more like a distant echo, a shadow that reminds me of how far I've come. I used to wonder how I didn't see it sooner, how I missed all the signs. But love blinds you. Hope keeps you chained. And people like her? They sharpen your heart into a weapon and leave you bleeding in your own home. But I survived it. Not just survived one. Amelia's eyes are brighter now. Her laugh longer. Her sleep deeper. And mine is too. That's the thing about betrayal. It breaks you. But if you rebuild right, you come back bulletproof. Fall rolled and slow and quiet, like the world itself was finally learning how to breathe again. The leaves started to turn, soft reds and gold spilling across the sidewalks, and Amelia became obsessed with crunching every one of them under her tiny sneakers. She called them crack leaves, which made the daycare teachers laugh way harder than they should have. Our routine became simple, peaceful. I'd make her breakfast, she'd pick her cereal based on whatever cartoon she was into that week. I'd drop her off, head to work, pick her up, and every night we'd read the same 3 bedtime stories until she fell asleep with her hand curled around mine. There was something sacred about those quiet moments. The stillness. Like I was being granted a second life, and this time, I wasn't going to waste it. But even peace has a price. It started with a knock. Not the kind you expect. Not a friendly rhythm. Just 3 sharp hits, like the door owed them something. I opened it. There she was. Lindsay. No makeup. Hair tied back. Skinny, too skinny. I sunken in like she hadn't slept in weeks. She looked nothing like the polished devil who stood in court trying to destroy me. Now, she looked like someone who had lost every war. And she had the audacity to smile. "Can we talk?" she said, voice soft like this was some awkward high school reunion. I didn't say a word, just stepped outside and shut the door behind me. She stood there on the porch, arms crossed, looking around like the house used to belong to her, which it did, once. Back when she had power. Back when I was too dumb to see the poison in her grin. "I'm not here to cause problems," she said. I wanted to see her. I let that hang in the air a moment. Then, quietly, "You forfeited that right." She laughed bitterly. "You still think you're better than me?" "No," I said. "I just think she deserves better." She stepped closer. "Tyler, come on. She's my daughter." "She's not." That hit her like a slap. "She's mine," I continued, voice steady. "Legally, emotionally, spiritually, every single way that matters. You made sure of that." Lindsay looked like she wanted to cry, but I didn't buy it. Not anymore. Tears were just another costume she wore when the truth got inconvenient. "I'm not here to fight," she whispered. I don't have anyone. Not anymore. I lost Chase. I lost my job. My parents won't even talk to me. I crossed my arms. And you think that gets you a clean slate? No, she said. I think maybe I deserve a second chance. I stepped down one stair. No, you don't. Her face twisted. For a second, the real her came roaring back. Those dead eyes, that sharp tongue. She'll ask about me one day, she snapped. And when she does, I said, calm as ice, I'll tell her the truth. That her mother left, lied, hurt people, and that I protected her from all of it. Lindsay scoffed. You think you're some hero? No, I said, but I know what I'm not. She stared at me, waiting for something, an apology, an opening, a sign that there was still a part of me stupid enough to want her back. But there was nothing left. Finally, she turned, walked off the porch, got into a different car this time. A rental maybe. Drove off without another word. I stood there for a long time after that. Not shaking, not angry, just done. Later that night, I tucked Amelia in and kissed her forehead. She blinked sleepily up at me and whispered, Dada? Yeah, baby. You sad. I smiled, even though something behind my ribs still ached. Not anymore. And I meant it. Winter came like it always does, quiet, sharp, uninvited. But this time, it didn't bring chaos. It brought stillness. Amelia turned 4 in January. We didn't throw a big party, just invited a couple of her little friends over. There was hot chocolate, marshmallows, some clumsy dancing in the living room, and a cake shaped like a dinosaur that I stayed up until 3 a.m. trying to get right. She said it was the best day ever, even though the head fell off halfway through the happy birthday song. That night, after she was tucked in, I sat alone in the living room with the lights off, the house glowing softly from the Christmas tree I still hadn't taken down. My hands wrapped around a warm mug of coffee, the silence curling around me like a blanket. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. No more courtroom dates. No more lawyers. No more watching the street like an animal expecting a trap. Lindsay never came back. I don't know where she went. I stopped caring. She'd vanished from our lives like a ghost finally banished. What mattered now is what remained. Amelia. She was light. Pure light. The kind that doesn't ask for anything, just gives. She looked at me like I was the whole world. And somehow, in her tiny, miraculous way, she had rebuilt mine. People still ask me about what happened sometimes. Friends. Acquaintances. Even the occasional coworker who heard whispers of the crazy custody story. They ask how I survived it. How I didn't go numb. Or bitter. Or violent. Truth is, I almost did. There were nights I wanted to drive until the road ended. Nights I stared at the ceiling asking God what the hell I did to deserve this. But every time I came close to breaking, I'd hear a little giggle from the next room. Or feel a small hand wrap around my finger. And I'd remember. I wasn't fighting for revenge. I was fighting for love. For stability. For laughter. For quiet mornings and dinosaur cakes and bedtime stories read 10 times over. If you're reading this and you've been through it, or you're in the middle of it right now, here's what I'll tell you. You will bleed. You will scream into your steering wheel. You will doubt every part of yourself, especially the ones that used to feel strongest. And the people you think will stand by you? Some will vanish. Some will make it worse. But if you keep standing, if you keep moving, even on the days you feel like crawling, you'll find something on the other side of that hell. You'll find peace. Not the kind they write about in poems. The real kind. The kind where your child laughs in their sleep. And you know, they are safe because of you. That kind. I don't hate Lindsay anymore. I don't need to. She's not part of our lives. Not part of our future. She was a chapter. Not the ending. The ending is this. Every morning, my daughter runs into my room with wild hair and sleepy eyes, climbs into my bed, and whispers, I love you, Dada. And every morning, I whisper it back. And mean it with everything I have. That's the ending. That's the victory. And that's enough.